So water plays a crucial, multifaceted role in alchemy, both in the ancient alchemy, the practical laboratory work, but what I want to focus on is the part it plays in the inner spiritual or hermetic alchemy. Water's function is not just literal, as in the laboratory, but it's symbolic, psychological, and cosmological. Water in alchemy is the agent of dissolution, purification, and regeneration. It breaks down the fixed to return it to the fertile matrix. It cleanses impurity. It mediates between above and below and opens the way for new creation. Spiritually, it corresponds to surrendering to the unconscious, emotional integration, and preparing the soul for illumination. I want to talk about the element of water. We have these grand trines beginning on the 24th of October, which are going to be triggered as planets transit through Scorpio, activating Jupiter in Cancer and Neptune, Saturn in Pisces. And these are a collective happening. They're going to impact us immensely. And so I've been contemplating, looking at the element of water, and particularly the element of water as it relates to alchemy and the function of alchemy as an inner psychological process. It's said, as above, so below. What is above us is reflected in what is below. So the macrocosm, the cosmos, is reflected in us. We contain the cosmos in that respect. And the archetypes of the cosmos are reflected in us and in our lives. So this grand trine is collectively affecting us, collectively making an impression on our psyches, on our lives. So I'm going to reflect and contemplate or share with you my contemplations in terms of alchemy. I believe we're in a period of time where there is great transformation, huge collective transformation carrying on, not just in our individual lives, but also without. That as within, so without. There are massive changes happening on the global scale. You just need to open your eyes and you can see it happening. But I believe this time is a time of shared release, shared transformation. These grand trines which are happening for the best part of the rest of this year are so important, and so I want to reflect with you. So let's have a look at water in all its roles in that dissolution, purification and regeneration, and see how we can apply it to ourselves. See how we can work with these grand water trines. So its elemental role as the dissolving principle. In classical alchemy, it corresponds to the element that dissolves, softens, and opens. It's associated with what's called the operation of Solutio, the process of dissolving fixed substances back into a fluid primal state, the state things were at creation, that primal chaos. Solutio allows rigid forms, metals, states of mind, ego structures to break down so that they can be purified, recombined and transformed. So as I said, it's a return to that chaos. It's the return to the prima material, the undifferentiated, the fertile chaos from which new forms emerge. So in the laboratory, the alchemists would dissolve salts or metals in liquid to extract essences or prepare compounds. It's used in herbal medicine to create tinctures and elixirs or infusions with water as the medium. So it has symbolic and a psychological function. That water as the emotional unconscious realm, that primal realm, prima materia. On the inner alchemical level, water represents the soul's emotional and psychic substance. So the unconscious are dreams, intuitions, and our fluid feelings. Things often we can't put into logical form. The Solutio stage corresponds to dissolving the ego in the waters of the unconscious. So that allows hidden material to surface for transformation. It's that sense of having triggers and not knowing why we're triggered. The ego is triggered into a reaction, but in the waters of that unconscious, there's something there foundational that is in us that has triggered that. But water would dissolve that ego, and the reasons, the illumination will appear to us. So it's about surrender, receptivity, and allowing previously fixed identities to soften. Symbolically, this is often depicted as immersion, drowning, or in religion, baptism. That's the necessary surrender before rebirth. It corresponds to the womb where the baby is surrendered to its watery surroundings before they've individuated, before they've separated from the mothers. So the waters dissolve the fixed ego so that a new form can be born. Then we look at the cosmological function, that primordial waters of creation, the cosmic womb. Many alchemical and hermetic texts references that primordial waters, the aqua permanens. It's a subtle, eternal substance that underlies all matter. If we look at our bodies, I think it's something like 60% of our bodies are made of water. There's more water than land on our earth. So these are the waters above and below from Genesis and Hermetic cosmology. The heavenly spiritual waters and the earthly material waters mirroring each other. And then we can go down to us as bodies mirroring that, as in the womb. This aligns with that principle of correspondence, as above, so below. These waters are, as I said, the matrix, the womb of creation, in which the philosophical seed is planted to generate the philosopher's stone in alchemy. Water is the feminine agent, seen as mercurial. It overlaps with Mercury in the alchemical symbolism because both the fluid, Mercury in astrology, is androgynous. They're both fluid mediating forces, both water and Mercury. And the water acts as a universal solvent, while Mercury is the spirit or life in matter. So water is that feminine principle, that yin, receptive, lunar, complementing fire's masculine, yang, active solar nature. So together the fire and the water initiate the alchemical marriage, the conjuntio that leads to transformation. This is the dance of the sun and the moon, the phases of the moon, the changing face of the moon, that marriage of those two. So water figures in most of the alchemical stages. Those stages are called the magnum opus, the great work. So water's influence is particularly strong in the early to middle stages of what they call the great work, the magnum opus. So we got Nigredo, which is the blackening, and it's dissolution of old forms beginning. It's immersion into that darkness and chaos. So that prima materia. So Nigredo is about all those wonderful themes of death, decomposition, the breaking down of old forms. It's that dissolution and immersion back into the primal chaos. So here we've got floods, symbols of floods, rainstorms, immersion, the sea of chaos, the black ocean depths. In the alchemical laboratory, the material laboratory, matter is broken down. And that's often through immersion in a liquid or through a liquefying process. Substances are dissolved to separate the subtle from the gross. We're after the subtle elements here. So the water or the liquid solvent being used is the medium in which the rigid substances are softened down, that process of water softening, and their essence extracted. So if we relate that to the psychological, water is acting as the unconscious or emotional depths into which our ego drown. Water acts as the unconscious or emotional depths into which our ego is submerged and drowned. Basically, old identities, behaviours, attachments, the rigid patterns begin to dissolve. So this stage often feels like being submerged into darkness, uncertainty and emotional overwhelm. Is that dark night of the soul or the descent into the inner sea? We've got the myths of Persephone being dragged down to Hades, or Inanna descending and being stripped of all her regalia. But it's not destruction for its own sake, but it's a preparation for rebirth. We've got images as well of the butterfly in the cocoon, that breaking down, that taking away of that caterpillar fall to rebirth it into a butterfly. This is an alchemical symbol for Nigredo. And Albedo is the whitening, cleansing of impurities, symbolized by washing. People in some religious structures have ceremonial washing. There's baptism or dew. We can look at dew, the dew on the spiders' webs and the leaves, the beauty of what you see. That's that whitening, that albedo. And Solutio is often repeated multiple times as the matter is continually dissolved and reconstituted. So we can see that in us, that constant dissolving of our ego, the constant dissolving of us, that roller coaster of up down of emotions that happens throughout our lives. We can't get away from that. That is part of the process of this soulful work. So water prepares the substance in alchemy, or our souls in inner alchemy, to receive higher energies later in the work, leading towards processes called citrinatus and rubedio, which is illumination, citrinatus. It's yellow, solar, like the sun, and perfection, the reddening. It's a perfection. Citrinatus, the illumination, it's a yellowing. It's illumination and integration. It's that process after the dark night of the soul, or a psychedelic journey where your ego is dissolved and you begin to be illumined. It's yellowing because it's connected with the sun, the solar, the life force, that yellowing. Connected with the dawn, the east, beginnings, awakening, the union of above and below. It's the carrier of celestial influences, that mediator between the above and below. We've got the symbols of morning dew, golden reflection on calm seas or lakes, that gentle rain after storm, living waters illuminated by the light. Citrinatus, the yellowing in the outer laboratory, the sense of moisture playing the role in infusing celestial or subtle energies, which I said were symbolized by the sun, into the purified matter. So that essence of whatever was being dissolved and blackened. So the dew and water are sometimes described as the medium by which solar fire descends. I mean, if you go out of an early morning in the autumn and the dew is on the webs, it is magical. It's just incredibly magical. So they're the sort of symbolism and the process of that citrinatus. So in the psychological or inner work, the water is acting as the harmonizing, mediating medium through which the spiritual insight can flow into the psyche. It transmits. The waters in us are transmitting the water above us. There's a descent of spirit into the soul. And the emotional life, our emotional lives will become transparent and luminous, allowing that higher consciousness to shine through us. We're not needing to hide. Our emotion is like that dew on the web. It's sparkling and glistening in all its colours. When the sun comes up in the morning after a dew, before it gets evaporated, you can sometimes see the prism of colours through those dewdrops. And this is what is shining through us, not only the spiritual, but our emotional. We're open, we're more open book. The once chaotic inner waters emotionally are now calm and radiant. So that's like that golden sea at sunrise. And it's where the union of opposites begin to stabilize. It can be likened to that integration period after a psychedelic trip, where you need to take hold of what you've seen, and sometimes these visions are dark. Trance work, altered states of consciousness, they need to be integrated. You can have these experiences. Shamanic journeying is another one, but you have the experiences, but they need to be integrated back in. This is this period, this yellowing period. It is illumination and pathway to integration. After the yellowing, we have those chaotic inner waters, calming and radiant and reflecting golden, and where the union of opposites, the masculine and the feminine, the receptive yin and the active yang, they begin to stabilize. We move on to that reddening, and that is completion, integration, embodiment. So it's about the wholeness, the marriage of opposites. It's what is the philosopher's stone. It's the marriage of the yin and the yang. It's all those symbols that go with that. The function is the vessel and lifeblood of the completed work. We're embodying what we have been through emotionally, physically, psychologically. We've got those symbols of living water. You shall be filled with living water, healing springs, blood of the stone, the elixir from the philosopher's stone, showing that we are turning our base metals, our ego, the things that block us, into gold, pure gold, the sun, the life force, spirit. Those fountains of eternal life and radiant rivers flowing from the center. It's all that imagery of life-giving water with the completion and the embodiment. That outer laboratory, the the alchemists would be working with the reddening, and at this stage the water's no longer that chaotic sea of dissolution. It's part of a perfective, balanced substance, and the moisture within the philosopher's stone, that living water, is said to nourish and vivify and give eternal life, whatever it touches. But inwardly, in psychological terms, archetypal terms, the emotional body is fully integrated. Our intuition and feeling are not overwhelming, but harmonized with consciousness. We've bought it from the depths. We've integrated it with our minds and who we are. Water serves as that vital current that flows through the unified self. It nourishes life and creativity, not only ours, but we start exuding that water. We're bringing it to other people in the form of gifts and healing. That is that alchemical marriage, the sun and the moon, soul and lunar, fire and water, masculine and feminine, all those pictures of the sun and the moon. It's complete. The inner waters now flow in perpetual radiant balance, however you want to see it. It is that dance of the sun and the moon perfected in us. The sun is constant. It moves constantly. The moon constantly changes, but they dance in a dynamic pattern. And our seasons change and the tides move. It's beautiful perfection. What is going on up in the sky and how it works out materially on the earth below. And we need to align with those processes. That is what we're here for. When we're aligned with those processes, we can co-create, we can bring beautiful things. Healing things, healing waters, healing messages, the healing arts, creativity that adds to our culture and adds to people. So there's that alchemical imagery of water, the sea, the prima material, our unconscious depths. We've got the rain, dew, moisture, those celestial influences descending into matter. They represent that. We've got baptismal pools, fountains, rivers, stages of purification and renewal. And we've got the flood, the total dissolution before regeneration. It washes. When we have floods, it washes the lands away. It changes the landscape. And then the landscape regenerates. We have the global myths of flooding, and they are always about the cleansing of the land, of doing away with the things that are detracting from the people, from the communities, from their devotion to the divine. And so those myths of flooding are that dissolution, that reorganization, rebirth, renewal, transformation. And what is fascinating, given all the alchemical processes, they're going to be triggered by these Grand Water Trines. And all 7 of the traditional planets are going to be activated between October the 24th and December the 6th. And if we go by the dictum as above, so below, that the macrocosm of our universe, of our planets, of the cosmos, resides within us, then we are in for a period of time where every part of our psyche is going to be challenged, renewed, restored, transformed. Every part of our lives will in some way be touched by this alchemical process of water. We have Jupiter in Cancer, the watery temple of the moon, and Cancer, the cardinal sign is an initiator. Together with the moon, this represents the full cycle, the phasal changes in the sky, on the earth and within us. It's the evaporation from the waters, the formation of clouds, the falling of the rain, the formation of mountain rivulets which flow into streams, and rivers which eventually return back to the sea. The sea being Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, the archetypal image of bringing many parts into one, the rivers to the sea. That picture of boundlessness, oneness, of union, Conjuntio. Then we have Scorpio, the watery temple of Mars, active, passionate, full of desires. Mars is now in his temple. Scorpio, fixed and persistent, signifying the depths and the dark, is depicted by the Death tarot card. The Nigredo, the Blackening, the beginning of dissolution. That action of dissolving our egos to allow our essence, our souls to emerge and radiate and give that living water from us. Both the sun and moon are here as this process begins, having come off of the new moon in Libra, bringing with it the seeds of balance and requiring a process of harmonizing to begin. The sun and the moon will meet here again on the 20th of November for the Scorpio new moon at 28 degrees, just 1 degree past the Grand Water Trine, indicating that a brand new cycle to be taken forward, which will be at its height on the full moon on the 5th of December, which is 1 day before Mercury makes its last pass in Scorpio and brings the last activation of this beautiful Grand Water Trine on the 6th of December. And so Mercury, the messenger who travels between the gods on Mount Olympus and Hades in the underworld, has passed backwards and forwards in his retrograde and forward movement and activated those Grand Water Trines several times. What message is he going to bring us? What will he communicate to us? I'm really looking forward to see what his overview and his communication to us, to our minds, will be. So during this period between the 24th of October to the 6th of December, Mercury, Mars, the Sun, Moon and Venus would have all activated this grand trine, and Saturn and Jupiter sat in Cancer and Pisces. It's a grand opportunity to consciously allow this collective alchemical process to unfold within us. This may entail a period of dark for us. It may mean we have to descend willingly, as Inanna did, into the underworld, or be kidnapped by Hades like Persephone. But either way, we need to enter into that unconscious terrain, preferably willingly. This might entail a period of darkness, a period of grief, of loss, of confusion, as we allow our former identities, our ego identities, those desires that obsessed us, we're talking of Scorpio here, to dissolve. This is where we face dissolution. It's through this that we are going to be able to go through the darkness, have that dissolution of ego, become integrated, become illumined, and to shine like the sun and give our waters back to those around us, to be co-creators, to be in the fullness of who we are. We're living in times of huge change, times of huge transformation. And we are being offered an opportunity to become the change we want to see in the world. I'll be continuing with this alchemical theme throughout November and up to the 6th of December as the planets activate this Grand Water Trine. So if you're interested in looking at the astrology in this way, then subscribe, hit your notification bell, and watch out for the upcoming videos or podcasts along these themes. All right then, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.